Nikon, for generations the choice of professional photographers. And now, with the newly designed F100, Nikon responds to your needs as never before. Dynamic autofocus, 10-segment 3D matrix metering, automatic balanced fill flash, 22 custom settings, an array of accessories, F-lens mount, and all in a metal reinforced body that's light and strong enough to take you anywhere your imagination wants to go. Hello, I'm Bob Christ, professional photographer. You've seen my work in National Geographic Traveler, Popular Photography, Smithsonian, and scores of other publications. Today we're going to travel to beautiful Italy, where I'll show you the camera designed with you in mind, the Nikon F100. Also joining us will be Nikon expert Lindsay Silverman, who will explain the custom functions of your camera. The Nikon F100 is packed with all the advanced features professional photographers have asked for. Because you're a serious photographer and familiar with basic camera operations, we'll concentrate on the F100's major features. In no time at all, you'll be comfortable and proficient with your new camera, and you'll get a look at the timeless beauty of Venice and the classic countryside of Tuscany. Let's begin by examining the F100's exterior controls. Then we'll move on to the F100's major new features. And finally, we'll review some important accessories and lenses. The F100 features Nikon's convenient command dial operation. To make almost any setting, you simply press the appropriate button and rotate the main command or sub-command dial. The main command dial sets primary functions such as exposure mode and shutter speed. The sub-command dial sets functions such as aperture in automatic and manual modes, and number of frames. It also sets EV steps and auto bracketing, and allows access to the camera's custom functions. Custom functions allow you to determine how you want your camera to operate. 22 custom settings are built into the camera. This means you can set your camera according to your personal preferences, or prepare it in advance for a specific shooting situation or assignment. All major camera settings are confirmed in the top LCD panel, and all settings appear in the Viewfinder. The LCD display can be illuminated by turning the power switch to the left. Illumination turns off automatically with the light meter to conserve battery power. Via custom setting number 17, pressing any button on the F100 will also activate the LCD, an important feature if you work for extended periods of time in low light conditions. The depth of field preview operates in all shooting modes, including program and shutter priority, enabling you to verify the focusing zone of any composition. Opposite the depth of field preview button is the lens release button. Your F100 is compatible with ultra-fast AFS silent wave D-type AF Nikkor, AF Nikkor, P-series Nikkor, and AIS Nikkor lenses. But remember, the F100 offers its highest level of performance with D-type AF Nikkor lenses. Performance will be limited to a smaller selection of features when the older non-AF lenses are used. Directly below the lens release button is the focus mode selector. You can choose S, single servo AF with focus priority, where the camera will not fire unless the subject is in sharp focus, or C, continuous servo AF with release priority, where the camera fires regardless of the focus status. The F100's separate sync terminal accepts all standard PC-type plug-in sync cords and Nikon screw-in type cords. Use this terminal to attach flash units which do not have standard ISO hot shoes. The F100 is compatible with every Nikon ISO type hot shoe mounted speedlight. And when operating with advanced speedlights, such as the SB28 or the SB28DX, the F100 offers 3D multi-sensor balanced fill flash, the most advanced fill flash ever. Located on the back of the camera is the focus area selector. This convenient thumb pad allows you to select among 5 focusing areas: left, right, top, bottom, and center. It also allows you to select among 5 spot metering areas. The AF area mode selector lets you choose dynamic area autofocus or single area autofocus. Using dynamic autofocus, all 5 AF sensors are active, and, through computer control, accurately focus track the subject as it moves through the viewfinder area. Using single area autofocus, only one focus sensor operates at a time. You may randomly switch from one sensor to another. Depressing the shutter release button or the AF on button engages autofocus. When using the AF on button, autofocus activation through the shutter release can be canceled via custom setting number 4. This focusing technique is recommended when photographing fast-moving subjects. The shutter speed aperture lock button locks either setting to prevent any accidental changes. This is especially useful in studio shooting and other situations where you want these settings maintained. The self-timer provides a 10-second delay before the shutter is tripped. The delay can be changed through custom setting. The 10-pin remote terminal connects you to a range of Nikon accessories, including remote cords and data backs. The AEL/AFL button locks the exposure, the focus, or both, depending on the custom settings. The custom setting menu button, in combination with the 2 command dials, gives you access to the 22 custom functions available in the camera. To return the F100 to its original factory settings, simply push the custom setting and the mode buttons together for 2 seconds. Using 4 AA alkaline or lithium batteries, the F100 can achieve a firing speed of 4.5 frames per second with focus tracking with lock-on. The F100 also accepts its own high-speed battery pack, the MB15. This increases the frame rate to 5 frames per second. Using the MB15's rechargeable nickel metal hydride battery source, the MN15 and its companion MH15 battery charger, photographers can shoot approximately 100 rolls of film. Having 2 MN15s on hand, one to use while the other is charging, can keep you shooting without interruption. Now let's look at the F100's viewfinder. The F100 comes with a fixed pentaprism viewfinder. This viewfinder's high eye point allows a full, sharp view even when your eye is a significant distance from the finder. A built-in diopter adjustment offers a range of -3 to +1, ideal for both near and far-sighted photographers. To adjust the diopter, simply lift and turn the diopter control dial until the image becomes sharp. The standard screen provided with your camera, Type B, shows the selected focus area and allows easy focusing on its matte surfaces. An optional E-type screen with grid is also available. Now that you're more acquainted with your camera, let's move on to its major features. The F100 features a fast and highly accurate autofocus system. Working at up to 4.5 frames per second with focus tracking with lock-on, you'll get plenty of original keeper shots and tight sequences of events. Even when other objects momentarily come between you and your subject, the camera will continue to concentrate on the original subject. The F100's autofocus system is the key to capturing all new photographs. The F100 incorporates Nikon's multicam 1300 autofocus sensor, the same AF sensor currently being used in Nikon's flagship camera, the F5. The sensor is made up of 5 multiple focusing points, which are arranged horizontally and vertically. Instead of just a simple line of sensors, the F100 sensors covers the left, right, top, bottom, and center of the frame. This wide cross array of full-time sensors operates within 44% of the viewfinder's horizontal coverage and 30% of its vertical coverage. Subjects can be moving in any direction, and subjects can enter the focusing fields from any position. In fact, the F100 provides a line of AF sensing even when the camera is held in the vertical position. This allows you to use autofocus in more situations and with greater confidence than ever before. The 3 horizontal AF sensors are comprised of cross-type sensors, the most sensitive AF sensors available. These sensors operate with Nikon AF lenses of f5.6 and faster, which is every compatible autofocus Nikon lens, a real advantage when using variable aperture zoom lenses and long telephoto lenses. Remember that autofocus is activated whenever the camera is turned on and the shutter release or the AF start button is slightly depressed. Autofocus is also activated when the focus mode selector is set to S or C. S is for single servo AF with focus priority, and is ideal for stationary subjects. C is for continuous servo AF with release priority, ideal for moving subjects. In either autofocus mode and in any film advance mode, focus tracking activates automatically when the subject begins moving. The camera then analyzes the speed of the moving subject and obtains correct focus by anticipating the subject's precise position at the exact moment of exposure. Autofocus can also be engaged through the AF Start button. Let's put autofocus to work.
Well, the horse shot was important because horses play a big part in the culture of Tuscany. You know, every year there's that famous race in Siena, the Palio. They hold it twice a year. Well, we weren't there for that, so we had to kind of recreate a little bit of horse culture. We got my friend Johnny and a couple of his friends to do some heavy-duty riding for us. And for that, for the panning shot, I used the focus tracking with lock-on.
Allora, I'm going to be out there, and if you go to just like the top of the crest of that hill, not all the way to the top, just the next rise right there, and turn around. I need the three of them, maybe 1, 2, 3, riding behind each other, coming across, and single file, or there could be a little overlap, but not side by side this way, more staggered this way.
Allora, vedi questa colonnina? No, la prima. Questo di qua. Dovete stare un po' più vicino.
Sì, però sfalsati.
Esatto.
Uno lì, uno
però
lì.
Quello che sta qui
più avanti.
È di là.
That was amazing. There was a pole that came right across my field of vision, but the camera stayed locked right on the horseman.
Then when we moved them around so they came directly at the camera, we faced the situation that's probably the most difficult in action photography, and that is when the action comes directly at the camera. This is incredibly hard to stay focused on, but it worked a charm. These guys were having some fun near the end, and they kept speeding up faster and faster. So by the third or fourth take there, they were coming at me at a brisk clip, and the camera stayed with them right to the very end until I jumped out of the way.
Whew, baby. Perfetto, Johnny!
Bene, bene. Chi è che vuole venire? Gli do tutto.
The F100's autofocus is definitely a big advantage. Let's look at some of the different modes of autofocus. In the single area AF mode, you select one of the 5 sensors to be the exclusive sensor. Once selected, the focusing system will ignore focus in the other areas, concentrating only on the chosen sensor to determine distance to the subject. This is an ideal selection when the activity is taking place within the entire scene and the photographer wants to concentrate on the action without composing and recomposing. To select single area autofocus, rotate the focus selector. Then lightly press the shutter release button and press the focus area selector up, down, right, or left to change the focus area. The AF sensor selected is illuminated in red inside the F100's bright viewfinder. It's also indicated by a bracket symbol which appears in the top LCD panel. Once in the single area AF mode, you may alternate the focus area by simply touching the focus area selector on the back of the camera. The focus area may be locked by simply rotating the focus selector lock release back into the locked position.
What I'm doing here is doing kind of an off-center composition, trying to make the most of the blocks of green and pink. I'm getting Chiara relating to the horse there. I'm using the side sensor to focus because I don't have time with the horse to recompose, focus and recompose. So by just shifting the sensor, I'm able to just lock the focus where I want it. That's it. That's great, Chiara. Oh man, look at Jean-Luc there. Right. I mean, everywhere you look in Tuscany, there's an image you can't miss. Yeah. That's great. Looks great. The sky is really dramatic, and what I've done is I put him over on one side, on the right-hand side of the composition. I'm using the right-hand sensor. We're getting some really dramatic skies behind him. It's really nice.
The F100 also features dynamic autofocus. Dynamic autofocus allows you to shoot moving subjects without changing your composition. It also makes it easier to shoot any subject whose position at the time of exposure is difficult to predict. To select dynamic autofocus, you must set either continuous autofocus or single servo autofocus on the front of the camera. Then rotate the single area dynamic AF dial to the right, activating dynamic autofocus. If you are in continuous servo AF, use the focus area selector on the back of the camera to select the primary sensor, the sensor that will be the first to detect the subject. You can choose any one of the 5 sensors to be the primary sensor, and you can change your selection at any time. If the subject will be entering from the left, select the left sensor. From the top, select the top sensor, and so on. The focus area you've selected will appear in both the viewfinder and the top LCD panel. Once the primary sensor is selected and the subject is focused, dynamic AF will detect the subject's movement and automatically shift among the 5 sensors, tracking the subject. If you are in single servo AF, F100 activates dynamic autofocus with close subject priority. In this mode, the F100 automatically shifts focus area on the subject located closest to any of the 5 AF areas. You cannot select any of the AF areas. This shooting mode is a great alternative when you don't have time to select a particular AF sensor. Dynamic autofocus with close subject priority can be canceled via custom setting number 9. When canceled, dynamic autofocus operates without close subject priority and allows photographers to select any of the 5 AF sensors to be used as the primary sensor during dynamic autofocus operation. In either setting, dynamic autofocus or dynamic autofocus with close subject priority, photographers have an all-new freedom to compose and concentrate on the action.
Terza giornata del campionato di conduttori in campo.
Another focusing option is the use of the electronic rangefinder, which simplifies manual focusing. Arrows in the viewfinder indicate which direction to turn the lens focusing ring. Once focus is achieved, a green dot appears in the viewfinder. Focusing takes place faster and more reliably than by eye alone. One of the F100's most important features is 10-segment 3D matrix metering. At the heart of the matrix system is a photographic database. This database uses information from actual picture-taking situations and photographic knowledge that the F100 can reference to determine proper exposure. This database concept is different from other systems that just perform calculations based on a set of algorithms or predetermined instructions. Frequently, you're confronted with picture-taking conditions that are new to you. The variations of light are infinite, and you can't be expected to understand how to deal with every condition. And there's more. You're often confronted by quickly changing lighting conditions. However, even at 5 frames per second, the F100 can keep up. Your F100 also offers Nikon's proven center-weighted metering with its 75% concentration within a 12mm circle of the viewfinder area. 25% of the meter's reading is concentrated in the periphery of this circle. This selection is ideal for portraits and any subjects that need additional emphasis compared to the background or foreground. But there's another important metering selection as well. It's spot metering. When using the F100 with the standard Type B or optional E screen, each AF focusing area becomes an active spot meter. Within each of these AF areas, the F100 concentrates nearly 100% of its sensitivity, giving you highly selective exposure control. The F100 also allows you to select which spot meter you want to use. Selecting one of the 5 spot meters means you don't have to keep adjusting and readjusting your composition. You can simply select the spot meter location that's right for your shot. To select spot metering, rotate the meter system selector while pressing the metering system lock release. Rotate the selector until the symbol for spot metering appears in the viewfinder. The spot meter always coincides with the focus area that has been selected. So to choose a spot meter, simply select the focus area. The spot meter will then make the reading.
Okay, this morning we're going to be doing a series of portraits of Paula, our interpreter, and we're working in busy St. Mark's Square here. And there's a lot of light, a lot of different kinds of light that we're going to be dealing with, but that's okay because we've got 3 different meters to work with. Now I've got Paula set up in some lovely backlight here, but backlight, while it's a great portrait light, it's tough to meter. So I'm going to do it spot metering here, just so I can read right off her face, and I won't be affected by that bright highlight behind her, and her hair, or the dark areas surrounding her. The spot meter is great for these kind of situations. Backlight is a really nice light to shoot portraits in, but it is a metering challenge. There we go, great. The spot meter will just allow me to concentrate right there on her face, her blouse, and just get that mid-tone reading. That's great, okay. Yeah, she's looking great there. Okay, Paula, that looks great, yeah, nice, okay. So now we've got Paula in a situation here in the archway where we got a lot of different exposure values, some dark backgrounds, bright white pillars. So I'm going to go to matrix metering here because that's going to allow me to get the best balanced exposure. That looks nice, very nice, Paula. Now we've got the 3 meters in the F100, so when each different kind of situation arises, the easiest thing to do is to just switch the meter to match the situation. That's nice. Very good, Paula. Good. Okay. I'm going to try to zoom it in just a little tighter. That's great. Oh yeah, there we go. That's nice. Looks very nice. So matrix is probably the best for this situation because of all those different exposure values, the darks and the lights, the skin tones. No, you know, you just do some of this, or something, just nice and relaxed, and then I'll get you with the long lens.
Okay.
Okay? Does that work for you?
Yes.
Good. Okay, good. Alrighty. Okay, here we go. Center weighted metering, cup of coffee. It's nice even light. She's dead center in the frame, so it's perfect spot for center weighted metering. And yes, we're using a long lens to compress the pattern of the tables there, and a wide aperture to soften the pattern behind her, because she's in that nice red shirt. It just pops out of the scene nicely. Okay, here we go. Nice. Italian cafe life. Ain't it grand? There we go. Okay. Center weighted is perfect for this because the composition, it's nice even lighting. She's dead in the center of the frame. Okay, just about finished. There we go. Nice Paolo, good. That's it, great. Ah, bellissimo Paolo, bellissimo. That looked great. Thank you very much. You did a great job there. Plus you got a free cup of coffee out of the deal. What could be better? I mean, now I think I'll sit down and join you for a cup maybe. Okay, let's put away all this gear, have some good coffee.
Now let's take a look at the F100's exposure modes. Programmed auto exposure automatically chooses both aperture and shutter speed. This mode is your best choice when you don't have time to make a decision. You can also change these automatic combinations by engaging Flexible Program. Flexible Program means you can adjust the camera's automatic operation to suit your specific shooting style or to a specific situation. You determine your own program curve by selecting the aperture-shutter combinations that are right for you. Shutter Priority Auto Exposure lets you select the shutter speeds manually in 1/3 EV stops, while the camera automatically selects the aperture. This is a great choice when the duration of the exposure and its effect on your picture are your main concern. Aperture Priority Auto Exposure is your best choice when depth of field is your primary concern. You can again adjust the settings in 1/3 EV steps to obtain the effect you're looking for. Select the aperture using the sub-command dial. In manual, you choose both shutter speed and aperture to get exactly the look you want, often in especially creative exposure or an unusual situation. The F100's built-in light meters can help guide you during your decisions. Set shutter speed with the main command dial and aperture with the sub-command dial.
One thing you see a lot of in St. Mark's Square is little children playing with the pigeons, and we wanted to capture this scene, and I wanted to do it a couple of ways. First, when the little girl was running through the pigeons and everything, I wanted to get those pigeons tack sharp, so I used shutter priority. I set the shutter speed I wanted to freeze the motion. One reason that you like to use something like shutter priority is because with action that's this unpredictable and this fast moving, you don't want to be messing around with exposure changes as those pigeons fly up and around and everything. Okay, she's calming down again. Let's see if we can get another series with the fast shutter speed. Okay, here we go. All right, John, if you want to stir them up. Okay, we've got some nice art on her with a high shutter speed, trying to freeze the motion of the pigeons. Now, since she's still playing around with them, I'm going to use that shutter priority again and go down to a slow shutter speed to try and catch some motion. Very nice. Okay, we've got some people coming in front here. Oh, there she goes. She's really having a blast with those birds. She's having a blast with those birds. 15th of a second seems to be a good a good compromise. There's a move that you can only pull off when you're 3. Whenever you're shooting kids and animals, you have to expect to waste a lot of film. It's kind of like sports photography. There's a lot of frames in there that aren't going to work, but the ones that do are worth all the effort. Now, aperture priority is really important when you need to control the depth of field. For instance, with that shot of Michela, the model, on the canal side there, that was a chaotic scene. We had gondoliers, we had bridges, we had gawking tourists, we had all kinds of things. So I really needed to soften that background. Loosen up. I know. You feel a little self-conscious? That's why we picked this location. Yeah. That's it. Now what I've done in this shot to isolate the model from the busy background is to select aperture priority and use the widest aperture on this lens. In this case it's a 2.8, but it can be on whatever lens you have, whatever the widest aperture is, that'll work to soften the background. Now you saw in the other sample shots when I closed down that aperture to f22, the background became way too busy. So use aperture priority to control the depth of field, control the background, and make your subject pop out. And usually doing that means opening wide open. Okay, we're going to do one more take. Hey guys, ready to do it again? That's it. Keep that nice smile. That's good. Oh yeah, that looks nice. Very nice. You really light up when you smile there. That's great. Okay, there we go. Great.
The F100 also offers multiple exposure setting, allowing you to make several exposures on the same frame. Simply rotate the Film Advance Mode selector to this mark. You can also compensate your exposures with the F100 within a range of plus or minus 5 EVs in 1/3, 1/2, or 1 EV increments. This allows you to automatically lighten or darken your exposures overall by a given amount. And because the exposure compensation mark and value appear in the viewfinder as well as the top deck LCD panel, you can set the compensation value while keeping your eye on the subject. To set compensation, press the Exposure Compensation button and rotate the main command dial to select the compensation value you desire. You can also automatically bracket your exposures at different compensation levels in 1/3, 1/2, or 1 EV steps. This gives you a set number of exposures, either 2 or 3 frames, at predetermined EV levels. In single frame mode, each time you press the shutter release, another of your predetermined compensation levels is exposed. In any of the continuous shooting modes, each exposure level takes place as the shutter release remains depressed. To set auto exposure bracketing, press the BKT button. Then rotate the sub-command dial to set the compensation values. Remember that you can use auto exposure bracketing in any exposure mode, including manual. In manual, the camera will automatically expose the compensation values you have selected, following your initial manual exposure. Whenever you change your manual settings, the camera will then expose over or under the manually selected EV value, depending upon the number of exposures and the compensation values you have entered into the sequence. In the default setting, your manually determined setting always comes first, then your first compensation value, followed by the second, if you have chosen a 3-frame sequence. Custom setting number 3 allows you to change this order, placing the manually determined EV in the middle of a 3-frame exposure sequence. When operating with 1-step EV levels in 3-frame sequence, you can change the compensation order to place a negative or a positive compensation level first in the order of exposures.
kind of seeing what's going to happen here, where they're going to sort and crush the grapes. Have to wait a second until we see what the action's going to look like, and then I'll know how I'm going to try to shoot it. What I'm doing here is I'm shooting manual exposure, but I'm using automatic bracketing because the light is kind of coming in and out of the clouds, and I want to make sure I get it. Bracketing is useful because it gives you 3 different interpretations of the scene, and I find that a lot of my magazine clients, some like lighter pictures, some like slightly darker pictures. With bracketing, I can give them the choice.
The F100 offers Nikon's 3D multi-sensor balanced fill flash. Working with an advanced Nikon speedlight, such as the SB28, the F100 measures and evaluates ambient light with the light from the flash. This creates photographs that appear much more natural, almost as if flash hasn't been used at all. The F100 uses a built-in 5-segment TTL flash sensor. This applies the principles of multi-pattern metering to flash photography. You see, the SB28 incorporates a unique monitor pre-flash. Working in combination with the F100's 5-segment flash sensor and any D-type AF Nikkor lens, a rapid-fire series of events takes place once you press the shutter release. Distance information is provided to the F100's computer through the D-type lens. The electronic rangefinder then determines the focus status, which one of the 5 AF areas is activated. Focus status information is critical because it helps the flash system determine where the subject is located. For example, here the subject is slightly off-center. Instead of the system being confused and thinking the subject is farther away and providing too much light for the scene, it knows the subject is actually much closer. The system continues to evaluate the scene through the use of monitor pre-flash, an imperceptible series of flashes prior to the actual exposure. Reflected light is measured and analyzed for brightness in the relation to the subject distance. The F100's computer then decides which segments of the scene should be used for flash control and what amount of flash is necessary to produce the desired effect. The result is a balance between available light and light from the flash with a very high degree of accuracy, all in milliseconds.
Now everybody knows about the canals of Venice and the gondola and the gondoliers, but Carnival is a very important aspect of the Venetian culture. It's one of the most famous carnival celebrations in the world, and the elaborate masks that they use are unique to Venice. So we tried to unite all 3 of these elements into one shot, the canals, the gondola, and the carnival celebrant. What we're going to do is we're going to have you sitting in here in the gondola just facing me, and I'm going to be hitting you with some flash. We're going to go in front of Della Salute a couple of times, and you know, you just have to hit a nice comfortable position, look at me, breathe. You know, if you're having any problems, you just let me know, and we'll stop and we'll take the mask off for some breath. And then I'll watch to make sure the eyes, you know, yeah, I got to see your eyes, so it's got to be up like that, okay? All right, great. So why don't we get you in the boat very carefully in the gondola here? You're okay? Okay, we're going to go out and we're going to do the salute shot now. Okay, what I'm doing now is I've got this, young lady dressed up as a carnival celebrant. We're going right into the sun. She's getting hit by the sun, but I'm using the flash to fill in the shadows and just put a catch light in her eye. And I'm getting different landmarks of Venice behind her. We started with Santa Maria della Salute. Now I'm just getting these beautiful palaces off here on the one side. We've got our gondolier in the background. I'm shooting with a 20 to 35, shooting pretty wide. And I'm using the flash just to open up those shadows, just to add a little sparkle. Okay, here we go. Alrighty, very nice, Mariana, very nice, good. Your eyes look beautiful. I think we've got the flash set to -2/3. She's just gonna add that touch of sparkle, bring up the lighting in the foreground to match that in the background. Okay. Because the balanced fill flash works automatically, I just shot away and I was able to concentrate on her expression, on the backgrounds, on all these other things. It just freed my mind from having to think of the technical considerations of what was needed to balance the flash. So it was fantastic, and it was a shot that really couldn't have been done any other way. All righty, here we go. You okay? She's more beautiful than the mask. 3D matrix balanced fill flash operates in all exposure modes, so you can put its performance and reliability to maximum advantage. However, it's important to remember that if a non-D-type lens is used, distance information is not factored into the exposure. You can also perform auto exposure flash exposure bracketing in a range of plus or minus 2 EVs in 1/3, 1/2, or 1 EV steps. For example, shoot one shot at the metered value, the next shot at +1 EV, and the next shot at -1 EV. You can change the shooting sequence so that the metered value can appear anywhere in the 3 or 2 picture bracketed sequence. Auto exposure flash exposure bracketing works in all modes. Auto exposure flash exposure bracketing changes the exposure of the entire image. However, by engaging custom function setting number 11, you can control auto exposure bracketing and flash exposure bracketing independently. Choose AE for auto exposure only, usually to control the background exposure in a flash shot, or choose SB to control the flash reaching the subject while the background remains constant. Again, auto bracketing works in all modes. Now, the situation with the couple tasting wine in the Vinsanto drying room is a kind of one of those classic situations where you've got a great situation but some lousy lighting surroundings. And there, in order for the film to register the scene the way the eye sees it, we had to reduce the contrast. We had to bring up the light on their faces and in the front to blend with the light that was coming from behind them in the window. Now, if you shot that shot without flash, you'd get a pure silhouette because film just doesn't see the same range of tones that our eye sees. So we had to throw in some fill flash. The big question is, how much fill flash? Well, there's an easy way around that, and that's where the automatic flash-only bracketing worked fabulously, because I was able to set 3 different settings there and shoot a different amount of fill flash with every frame. And so when I get that film back, I'm able to choose the right blend, the blend that I like the best, between the backlight and the fill flash. That's it. Good. I'm going to try manually zooming this thing out a little. Give me more telephoto coverage, even though I'm just shooting with a wide angle. I'm going to just try to aim the light right at the models now, so it doesn't rake the grapes at all. Try one more sequence like that and see what happens. Now, when you have a scene like that that has such tremendous difference between the highlight and the shadow, it's helpful to be able to bracket both your flash exposure and your ambient exposure. And you're able to do that with the camera and just switch back seamlessly, so you get a wide variety of combinations. Sometimes a little more flash, sometimes a little less flash, sometimes a little more ambient, sometimes a little less ambient. Now, somewhere in there, you're going to come up with at least one combination that's going to be right on the money. Probably more than one, but just one that has that balance just the way you want it. And it's something that you'd never be able to see with your eye, so you have to depend on the camera to do it for you.
For your reference, auto exposure bracketing, which will affect the entire exposure, is set by rotating the main command dial while pressing the BKT button. This selects the auto exposure flash exposure bracketing mode. BKT appears in the LCD panel, and this symbol blinks in the viewfinder. Then, while pressing the BKT button, rotate the sub-command dial to select the number of shots you want and the compensation value from the selection shown. For example, 2 shots, one at the metered value and one at plus 1/3 EV. In this example, 3 shots, one at the metered value, one minus 2/3 EV, and one plus 2/3 EV appear. Remember, to set auto exposure or flash exposure bracketing independently, you must use custom setting number 11. To perform only auto exposure bracketing, select AE. To perform only auto flash exposure bracketing, select SB. Flash can be one of your most innovative photographic tools. In fact, the F100 features 5 separate flash sync modes, all producing different types of photographs. Front curtain sync causes the flash to fire at the beginning of the exposure. This is also called normal sync because it is the way most flash pictures are taken. In low light situations, slow sync can be used to more fully expose the background while the flash illuminates the subject. Rear curtain sync fires the flash at the end of the exposure and can create a stream of light behind the subject. Red eye reduction reduces the chance of light being reflected off the back of the eyes. And the 5th mode is red eye reduction with slow sync. You can learn all about Nikon Flash, including multiple flash techniques, by ordering Nikon's SB28 video, again hosted by yours truly.
The couple with Paolo, and get them set up to and then just have them talking or whatever, and you know. So.
Allora, te ti metti di qua, te ti metti di qua, loro due si mettono.
So we're in the wine cellar. We're going to be doing a little fill flash with long exposure of a wine tasting with winemaker Paolo Trappiani. So, you know, you're just going to have it like that. I'm going to get them set up there.
The F100's custom setting feature lets you customize your camera to suit your specific shooting needs. You can create your own combination of functions without having to go through a service center. This new built-in technology allows you to alter an array of automatic functions, including autofocus activation, bracketing order, command dial rotation, self-timer delay, time exposures, top flash sync speed, automatic film advance, and more. To cancel all customized settings and return the F100 to its standard settings, simultaneously press the bracket and custom setting buttons. Nikon expert Lindsay Silverman explains some of the most useful settings.
Many years ago, Nikon came to the realization that different disciplines in photography require different needs in camera design. Yet we couldn't design a camera for every type of discipline. So what we've done differently is that we've given you a basic feature set in a camera like the F100 and included within it 22 individual and customizable settings that you can change to suit the type of photography that you do. When you buy your F100 and open the instruction manual, there's a lot of information in that manual. And when you get to that custom setting menu list of 22 different options, it can be a little bit overwhelming. And for that reason, I've come to a method that I think works for setting those custom settings. And I've divided it into 2 different styles of setting custom settings. The first way I set my custom settings is to do the inclusive group, which I have set in my camera all the time. Those are the custom settings that I've looked at in the book, and then I set those because that's the way I'm going to shoot most of the time. The second method of setting custom settings is to set the types of custom settings that you're going to use occasionally. Rather simple to do, and it's something you can do on the fly. but it's something I'd rather do before I go out with the camera. The last thing you want to do when you're out on a photo shoot is to have to stop and think, how do I have to reset my camera? So what I do is, I look at the book before I go out and shoot, or I use the handy reference guide that comes with the camera, and I keep it in my camera bag. I pull that reference guide out on those situations that I need to use those sometime custom settings, and then I'll see and set physically those custom settings. As an example, one of the custom settings within F100 deals specifically with an incremental change in the exposure value that you can set. When you buy an F100 and open that camera, right out of the box, the camera is geared to shoot in 1/3 EV steps. That's 1/3 of an f-stop. So when you change shutter speed value or aperture value, those values will change 1/3 of a stop each time. If you're a color print film shooter, however, and you want to make an exposure change and notice that on your film, you're going to need to change that incremental value by a much greater degree, or else you're really not going to see the value change at all. So with that in mind, custom setting number 2 in the F100 deals specifically with changing the incremental value either as the factory default of 1/3 EV, you can change it to 1/2 EV, or you can change it to 1 full f-stop changes. When you set that custom setting within F100, whether you're bracketing your film, or whether you're changing a shutter speed value, or an aperture value, or even setting something as simple as an ISO value, that value will change in that type of degree. Another one of those custom settings that doesn't seem obvious at first is custom setting number 21, which deals with auto exposure lock, autofocus lock button options. I like to use spot metering a great deal, and traditionally when I use the spot meter, I've always shot it in a manual exposure mode. I've always associated spot metering with full control, and that's the reason I chose manual. But you're going to find yourself in some situations where you want to use a spot meter, or even a center-weighted meter for that matter, and you want to use some degree of automation. When that happens, you find yourself that you need to take an exposure reading from a particular area within the scene, and you need to lock that exposure. But if you're like me, I spend a great deal of time looking through my camera, composing, setting the different settings, and then finally taking the picture. One of the newer custom settings in F100 is within custom setting 21, it's custom setting 21-3. Custom setting 21-3 allows me to press the auto exposure, auto focus lock button as I'm shooting, and it gives me the comfort of picking up the camera, putting it to my eye to shoot and to maintain a locked exposure value without having to hold my finger on the button. This is a great way of shooting, especially if you're like me and you take a great deal of time when you're composing, metering, and setting up your photograph. Here's another great custom setting that you'll find very handy in the field. Custom setting 13 deals with easy exposure compensation. Ordinarily, when you're out making pictures and you're shooting in an automatic mode, whether it be aperture priority, shutter priority, or program, and you want to make an adjustment to the exposure value, you have to press the exposure compensation button, hold it down, and then turn the main command dial to access the amount and degree of compensation you want to set. While in itself not a very time-consuming option, it does take your eye away from the camera to do that. With easy exposure compensation active, turning one of the command dials to the left overexposes the image, turning it to the right underexposes the image. It's a very intuitive way of shooting, especially if you're like me and you like to keep your eye on the viewfinder, always watching what's happening on the subject. You have to remember though, when you have easy exposure compensation active, to reset the camera back to its 0 default, or just as with when you have exposure compensation set and you don't reset it, that value will remain in the camera's memory. Now remember, the best way to fully understand the custom settings within F100 is to reference the instruction manual. It's got a detailed look at each particular custom setting, the layered numbers, and how to set them. It's a good idea to keep this F100 custom setting reference guide in your camera bag. This way you can review the custom settings when you're out in the field making photographs. And have fun with it. Try different settings, experiment. That's what they're there for.
You can see that the F100 opens up a whole new world of photographic opportunity. And perfectly matched to that opportunity are Nikon lenses. Nikon produces the optical glass for its lenses in its own glassworks to legendary standards. extra-low dispersion glass, integrated coatings, close-range correction, and internal focusing are only a few of Nikon's innovations. Perhaps the greatest innovation of all is the F lens mount itself. Because of its F lens mount, the F100 will accept hundreds of Nikkor lenses. The F100 is compatible with all AF Nikkor lenses, and the camera offers full performance with D-type AF Nikkor lenses. D-type AF Nikkor lenses feature built-in computers that work together with the computer found in the F100. Together, they deliver the distance technology that makes the F100 so remarkably accurate and reliable. Earlier Nikkor AF lenses will also deliver excellent results, but can't use certain F100 features. Limited features operate when using the older Nikkor AI lenses. Nikon's newest lenses feature exclusive silent wave motor technology. These incredibly quiet AFS lenses focus quickly and quietly. As a serious photographer, you'll want to consider the AFS 28-70 2.8, the new 17-35 2.8, and the 80-200 2.8D IF ED lenses. These silent wave motor lenses offer the latest in optical design technology for razor-sharp pictures, even under low light conditions. And if you're a nature or sports shooter, the 300-28 AFS Nikkor is going to be a valuable addition. Choose from over 45 available Nikon lenses and get the quality you demand every time. When purchasing Nikkor lenses from Nikon, make sure that the U.S. warranty is supplied. You can confirm that a Nikkor lens has been officially imported by checking the following. The serial numbered lens starts with the letters US. The lens is supplied with an official Nikon Inc. 1-year limited warranty document. And each lens also includes an envelope titled 5 years of protection. This envelope contains an official Nikon application that entitles the lens owner to an additional 4 years of coverage. Nikon accessories expand your photographic opportunities even further. Nikon's Databack MF29 records date and time within frame. Additional eyepiece correction lenses and viewing attachments make using your F100 more efficient. A range of accessories for macro photography, including bellows, rails, spacers, adapters, close-up attachments, and macro speedlights let you work effectively in this demanding environment. Remote cords, power cords, color correcting filters, soft focus filters, black and white filters, lens shades, and an array of speedlights make the F100 one of the most comprehensive photographic systems available. Another important accessory that can help you with commercial and other types of shooting is Nikon PC Link. PC Link is a computer software package that connects the F100 with your Windows-based PC. A Nikon MC33 cord is used for the connection. PC Link offers many additional custom camera settings, as well as downloading and editing of shooting data. PC Link works with Windows 95, Windows 98, and Windows NT 4.0. In addition, PC Link allows downloading of shooting data from the Nikon N90S and F5 cameras. Nikon wants to support your photographic efforts in every way we can. Nikon School video learning tapes are available for most Nikon SLR cameras and key accessories like the SB28 Speedlight. Nikon Master Series videos cover both the fundamentals and the insights of the world's greatest photographers. Nikon World Portfolio takes you into the hearts and minds of today's and tomorrow's photographic greats. For information on Nikon School videotapes or to subscribe to Nikon World Portfolio, call or visit us on the web. On behalf of Nikon, I hope you've enjoyed this special presentation on the F100. Whether you're a photojournalist, sports photographer, wildlife photographer, or just a photo enthusiast, the F100 can help you take the world's greatest pictures, yours. Thanks for watching. I'm Bob Christ.